Welcome back to another edition of Doing It with Dish. It's fall time. The colors are beautiful. People are harvesting the garden. Crops are getting harvested. One of the things that gets harvested, cabbage. So what do you do with cabbage? You make coleslaw, stuffed cabbage. There's some good things to do with it. Me personally, I like to make sauerkraut out of it. So what you need is good cabbage. If you can go to a farm, pick it fresh, that's the best stuff. Buy it out of a wholesale place, that's good too. The stuff you get at the supermarket, hard to say how long it's been picked, might be a little dry. We'll get into that in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do with this head of cabbage is get the core out of it. So what I do is take a sharp knife, cut resistant gloves of course, and I'm going to cut it in half, get the core out, then I'm going to cut it into quarters to fit in the cabbage shredder itself. So let's do it. So what I do is just make a little V-notch into the half of cabbage, get out that core. I'll do the same on the other one. And then once it's cored, I'm going to cut it into quarters. That way it's going to fit inside the shredder easier. Okay, it's time to shred some cabbage. Let's get after it. Okay, we're all set up here. I got a crock, got the cabbage shredder, and I just prop it up against the old Polaris Ranger here. This old crock's been in the family for years. Same thing with this cabbage shredder. You can still actually buy these thrift stores, antique stores, online, eBay. They're available, and these really work good. Now, if you don't have a crock, just go to Subway. Ask for a pickle pail. They usually got extras they want to get rid of. Might charge you a couple bucks. They're food grade. They work good too. All right, let's shred some cabbage. Okay, so we've shredded the cabbage. And what we want to do here is we want to build this crock up in layers. So once we pack this down with the kraut stick, we want about 2 inches of compacted cabbage. And then we're going to add garlic and we're going to add salt. So again, do it in layers, approximately 2 inches of packed cabbage. Let's get this packed down. Let's get our salt. We're going to add some garlic. And I think what I'm going to do here is throw in some carrots and beets. Adds a little color, a little bit different. Let's get that done. Okay, so we got our cabbage. It's packed in there, it's about 2 inches. It's time to add the salt. So what you need is pickling and canning salt. Any salt that's non-iodized will work. But get the pickling and canning, it's all set. And the rule of thumb on this, when you're making your kraut, is about 2% salt to cabbage. So if you wanted to weigh that out, something like 10 pounds of cabbage, 160 ounces, 2% of that is about 3.2 ounces. So if you want to actually weigh everything up, be precise. What Dish does, I've been doing this a little bit, so I just do it by eye. It works. What we've also got is these shredded beets. And this adds color, looks nice in the jar. So I'm going to sprinkle that in there also. And some carrots. Again, shredded them on the food processor, works great. We're going to sprinkle some of that in there also. So what I'm going to do now is more cabbage, another 2-inch layer, and I'm going to build that all the way up till I'm about 2 or 3 inches from the top, and then we'll cap it off and we'll show how we do that. I'm going to get back to shredding. I've already touched on the pickling and canning salt. What I've got here is the garlic. What I normally do is I buy heads of garlic. You peel them, the bigger cloves cut up a little bit. But this year I did something different. Doing this all by myself. To save time, I went with the minced garlic. It's already set to go. Spoon it in, spread it around a little bit. You're all set to go. So it's nice to do this as a group. You got 3-4 people, someone's shredding, somebody else is getting the heads cut, somebody else is packing, somebody's doing the garlic. Goes so much faster. Let's get back to shredding cabbage. Okay, so you've layered all the way up. You got your cabbage in there. You put in your salt, your garlic, packed it nice. So we're a few inches away from the top. Now we're going to kind of seal this off. So we're going to take them big leaves we saved and completely cover that pail with these big leaves. Then you can take a plate, set on top with a rock. And what that does is as that salt sucks the water out of the cabbage, you have the solution. And that's what you need for fermentation. That plate with that rock on top keeps your cabbage down and keeps it from floating up. Another way to do it is what I've done here. Same thing with the big leaves, but I put about 1 gallon of water in a small garbage bag. And then I put another bag over that one, double bag it up. This isn't a good place for your bargain brand garbage bags. And it does the same thing. The weight on top keeps your cabbage down in your solution. The nice thing about doing it this way, you got a pretty good seal around the whole top. Keep out anything, because remember, these are going to be sitting for 4 to 5 weeks. We don't want nothing getting in there. And on this one, you can always take your cover and just kind of set it on top. Keeps everything out of there. These are ready to go down the basement. 4 or 5 weeks, we're canning some delicious sauerkraut. All right, I got the red cabbage now. We'll make a pail of that. I've got the pickle pail from Subway here. I'm gonna use this on the red cabbage. And I always like to do these projects outside. You make a mess outside, it's all right. When I'm done here, deer will come in, they'll clean it up for me. So the same thing here. We'll get a base shredded, pack it down, get the salt, get the garlic in there. Again, in about 2-inch layers. Let's make some red sauerkraut. Alright, here's that pail of red cabbage. It's all sliced up, got the salt, got some garlic in there. I had some leftover carrots, threw some of them in there too. And on this one, I'm going to put the bag of water over the top. So this one's all set. Let's get this in the basement. Hopefully 4 or 5 weeks from now, we're canning some really good red sauerkraut. All right, it's time to finish off our kraut. It's been a month since we put this in there, shredded it, added the salt, the garlic, and it's ready to get processed now. So when you take your pail and take the cover off, the first thing you're going to see are those leaves we put on there. And they're going to be slimy, maybe a little black, maybe some mold. So you take that top, scrape it off, throw it away until you get down to good white kraut. Alright? Another thing you need to do is mix this up a little bit as you're taking it out of the pail, because remember we put that in layers. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the kraut and I'm going to put it in this pan. So the way I do it is I take the kraut in the pan and I actually partially cook it, get it hot. Then I put it in the jars. It cuts down on the water bath time. You don't need to do this, it's the way I've always done it. So let's get some in here, let's get it heated up, and then we'll start putting it in jars. Okay, we got our pan of kraut. It's all heated up, nice and hot, pre-cooked. Time to get it in the jars. Once you get some in there, take your little mini kraut stick. Get that packed tight. Throw in some more. Just like we did in the pails, kind of the same thing with these jars. Till you get all the way to the top. Take your lid, put it on top with your ring, and remember snug, don't twist that down. Time for the water bath. Let's finish these up and get that done. Our jars are packed, tops are on, rings are on. It's time to go in the water bath. So you fill it up with water to the top of the baffle. Get your jars in here. Get it on the stove. On top is a little thermometer. The time it takes to process this is the time it's in the green, which means it's up to temperature. Because these were pre-cooked, 10 minutes on pints, 15 minutes on quarts. If you bypass that cooking process which you can, you're at 25 minutes on quarts, 20 minutes on the pints. Let's go get this on the stove. Let's start cooking. While that batch is in the canner getting heated up, I'll talk about another way of preserving your kraut. Freezing it. Ziploc bag, some sort of Tupperware containers. Again, you got to make sure it's all mixed up in your pail good. This stuff isn't pre-cooked, it's going in just as it is. This is good for small batches, right? You're just going to cook up a couple kielbasa and you want some kraut to go with it. Get all the air out of it, seal it up good. Again, a Tupperware container. Fill up as much as you think you're going to need. Different size containers, put it in the freezer. Now in the freezer, there's kind of a shelf life. It's good for up to about a year. After that, and also your freezer is going to start smelling like sauerkraut. But if you have a small batch, don't want to go through the canning process, throw it in the freezer. Keeps good. Use it up quicker though, that's the only thing. Let's get back, check on that canner. Okay, I've got a couple batches done already. Did some pints, of course. You remember we did the red cabbage. This turned out really good. Very tasty. And the quarts, of course, still warm. Don't forget to write on the top the year and make sure they've all sealed, right? You got the little button on top, should be sucked down. If you put pressure and it clicks, it didn't seal. Once you open a quart, there's a lot of kraut in there. If you don't use it all, they make these nice resealable lids. Screw it on the top, put it in the fridge, you're all set. So I hope you enjoyed making kraut with dish. Give it a try sometime. I went a little overboard, I did like 8 pails. You don't have to do that much. There's other recipes. You can make it in quart jars, gallon jars, tons of different ways to doing it. This is just one way. So until next time, thanks for watching.